is News Talk.
All right, you're welcome along to Thursdays Off the Ball. Nathan with you until 10 o'clock this evening. 53106 is the text number. At Off the Ball on Twitter. We're live on all our social channels across the evening as well. John Giles live in studio at 7:30. We'll be reflecting on Manchester City's victory over United in the derby. Maybe chat a bit about Roy Keane's punditry. Cutting. What would Roy Keane say of Dan McDonnell still not being here for the news round at 7:03? Well, it's just typical of the man, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just typical.
You better
rolling his eyes to heaven.
Yeah.
Wouldn't expect anything else. Wouldn't believe a word he tells you. It's a terrible accent. It's great. I can do whatever accents I want now because Richie's not here this evening.
Mayo by way of Cork, kind of.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Really, you should be able to do a Roy Keane accent. Most people should be able to do a good Roy Keane accent.
Murray Rosenstock does an excellent
Just
accent.
speak quite high in an angry tone.
Yeah.
How are you, Will?
Good, Nathan.
Do you do accents? Do you fill in for Richie McCormick in every possible way?
I don't know. Richie's too good at them. Richie is excellent at accents. He would get Roy Keane, I think, off perfectly. I'm all right, but my accent's too flat normally.
Should we have a punishment for Dan McDonnell for his tardiness?
Undoubtedly.
Listeners, do text in 53106. Let us know what punishment we should inflict upon Dan McDonnell. It's just the two of us for now. But John Giles will be here at 7:30, so get your text in for John. At 8 o'clock, we're going to hear from Dennis Hogan. You might have been following the story over the last couple of weeks. He was in Mexico, world title fight, dominated the fight, but a typical hometown decision. He's not happy about it. He's back home in Kildare, and he joined us for a call a little bit earlier. We'll bring you that at 8 o'clock. We're talking to DJ Carey. I had a Freudian slip. I called him DJ Kerry.
Yeah.
Because he's a football man now.
Yeah.
He is the manager of the Kilkenny minor footballers who suffered some ridiculous beatings at minor level, stepped out of the Leinster Championship for a couple of years, put in a really good performance against Louth. So he's going to talk to us about football in Kilkenny and where it's going in very much a hurling county. And on the football show, we'll chat about the derby last night. We'll talk about the PFA Team of the Year. Paul Pogba's in it.
Surprisingly.
Shockingly.
He was playing well when it was voted, is the only one thing.
Here we go. Here we go. The Paul Pogba of Team Off the Ball turns up when he wants. No level of consistency.
It's a bit harsh.
No tracking back.
Paul Pogba doesn't have parking issues that I face sometimes.
Right, well, that's because he lives in a hotel right beside the training ground, doesn't he?
I mean, moving into a hotel
move
somewhere.
into the Drury Court Hotel. Where were you? Who in their right mind, organised, somebody on top of things, drives into town on a Thursday evening in the lashing rain?
It's pretty busy, actually, yeah. I thought schools would be off. I thought it'd be easy.
School kids aren't in the middle of town on a Thursday evening.
Yeah, but generally,
it
generally makes traffic situation a bit easier.
Well, it's good to have you here now.
It's good to be here.
How are you?
It's good to be here. I'm good, yeah.
When you were late, I thought,
something's going on.
Stirring.
No, not
the last time you were late, you didn't even turn up, was the day you were out in Abbottstown.
That's actually very late, yeah. Not even been there at all. No, nothing like that going on. Well, I hope not, anyway. I hope not, unless there's something breaking to be announced. But no, I don't think so today.
Are you outraged by Paul Pogba's inclusion in the Team of the Year?
Well, I mean, it's one of these ones where, like, how many times will people say to you, well, you haven't played the game, This is the football men have made the decision, so why argue with them? They know. Well,
we have the ultimate football man in at 7:30, and I suspect he will disagree with the current crop of football men.
See, I wonder, like, do we put? I mean, obviously the Players' Awards mean a lot to players naturally. People like being respected by their peers, and that's a great thing. But I mean, are they? Like, do they vote? Like, do players actually think about it? And I've spoken to people who voted in these awards. Like, do they just go on? Well, he was brilliant when we played against them, and that's it. So I think he's a brilliant player, rather than someone critically assessing whether this player has maybe lived up to their potential across the season and has been as consistent as they should be. Like, do players just play against Pogba and go, wow, this guy's got everything?
Is there a possibility that a sizable chunk of the young players in the Premier League worship Pogba in the way that children worship Paul Pogba? Like, Paul Pogba's the biggest star in the Premier League for any kid age 10, maybe even older. He's the superstar. He's the one they watch on YouTube. Is there a possibility that a lot of the young players in the Premier League go, this is the guy I want to be like? Like, they touched on it in the coverage last night of, where are the idols in the Manchester United, for a young player in the Manchester United dressing room, who are they looking across at that's setting an example? Well, maybe they're looking at Paul Pogba and his 100 million YouTube followers going, yeah, I like the look of that.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of French players in the Premier League. Maybe they're all just voting by nationality. A lot of French players or French origin players who just go, yeah, this guy gets too much he gets too much flack.
I reckon the element as well, though, is when they vote for this. This is usually taken in kind of late February.
Timing
March.
is massive.
United were in a pretty decent run of form, and Pogba was pretty central to that in the early Solskjaer period. I wonder if this had been voted a couple of weeks ago, would that team be slightly different?
That's always the danger. That is always that it's very time sensitive.
Why can't they just vote last weekend online? Send them an email, tick box, a survey monkey.
It should be easier.
Tick box.
But it's one of these
Simple
things
as
where
that.
can you prove then that the players have actually voted themselves?
Rather than their agent.
Yeah.
So do you think the lack of Irish players in the Premier League is the reason Matt Doherty wasn't included?
This is it. People aren't voting. It's like the Eurovision. You know, you needed.
We've no friends anymore.
We needed a nationality to vote for us. We needed a block. Doherty is probably a bit unfortunate. The one thing about the thing is, like, it's drawn from 3 different clubs. I mean, Pogba. I mean, on one hand, Pogba's inclusion is a shock. On the other hand, at least it's making it more than a two-team team. You know, in the sense of where
it was the fewest number of teams represented ever in a PFA team of the season.
I think I would have thought, you know, Son was a bit unlucky from Spurs' perspective.
Hazard probably a bit as well.
Yeah, and like, what does that say about the league that it's so heavily weighted towards? Like, the Premier League is becoming a top 6 league anyway.
Well, is it just a reflection on this season that you have 2 unbelievable teams, and that actually the PFA Team of the Year should reflect that?
Maybe that's just it. Actually, maybe it's as simple as that. And maybe sometimes you look too far outside the box with these things, and you avoid the obvious. And it's why sometimes, like, consistent performers get overlooked from awards because they haven't had the season of their dreams that gets them in.
It's like the PPIs, you know?
Yeah.
The consistency is never appreciated.
Yeah, I can sense the bitterness. I can sense the bitterness in your voice there. As
just putting it out there.
Joe sitting at home admiring his trophy cabinet as we speak. Oh, and he probably does regularly, to be clear.
I think we can all be clear that there's a very good chance that happens.
Into the PPI suite.
We did ask the listeners for what sort of punishment we should inflict on you for your late arrival.
Oh, I missed this. Oh, God.
Make Dan watch Arsenal for his punishment. That's not very funny, James and Kerry. Make Dan do the news round in a Roy Keane accent.
Oh, that.
Can you do a Roy Keane accent?
No, I'm not. It's not possible to do it. I don't have the skills. See, Richie McCormick is the impressions.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We've
office.
freedom tonight because Richie's not here. Usually, Richie out impersonates you if you try anything.
Yeah.
Richie'll step it up a level, but he's not here, so we can do what we want. So you can go for it. Feel free.
Listen.
You could have a hidden talent. And Richie will be just shamed never to be able to do it again.
It's well hidden. I just don't think it's capable. I mean, watching Arsenal though is more of an onerous task, or is it? No, Arsenal's actually not a bad punishment at all, really. To be fair.
For Dan McDonnell, make him write a praise piece on John Delaney.
Oh.
That'd be easy. You're a fair-minded individual, aren't you, Dan?
I mean, he hasn't opened a sand sculpting festival for me before. I mean, I'm sure I have plenty of material I can work off from my friends at the various clubs around the country who've only emailed me once and haven't emailed me since.
They don't keep in regular contact?
They haven't followed up on any updates of team affairs.
Damn it.
Yeah, the Duncannon AFC and Cahir Park and all these places that they reached out once and then they didn't want to be pen pals.
Shame, isn't it?
Any longer than that.
At least you know you're on their mailing list.
I'm there for a special occasion.
You lodged a GDPR complaint?
No.
How do you do that?
No, I'm not sure.
You have to listen to these ads for a year and they don't tell you how to complain then.
Well, I mean, that was an angle that people were pointing out, but then it was pointed out that a lot of the League of Ireland clubs that send out their weekly team list, they do include emails as well and stuff too. That's a good point. So
shall we hear from the real Roy Keane?
Yeah.
It's a quiet news day when Roy Keane, 24 hours later, still the lead story.
It was quite the impression he made last night. Particularly, he took on the senior analyst on Sky Sports, Gary Neville, quite a few times during the coverage as well. And the former Manchester United captain has attacked the current squad, questioning their mentality and branding them not good enough. United were beaten 2-0 at home to the new leaders in the Premier League, Man City, last night. And Keane says the blame is lying with the players rather than their manager, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
These are the same players that threw Mourinho under the bus, and they will do exactly the same to Ole. Leopards don't change their spots. There's too many bluffers at this club to get United back to the very top. You've got to be up for every game at Manchester United, and the fact Ollie's got to discuss it after the game and again the following few days about his players not being up for a game of football, he must be hugely embarrassed.
Enjoy Roy Keane last night?
I did. I mean, I was in here, so I didn't see the full show, but I've seen obviously the highlights of it afterwards. You always get the best bits summarised pretty quickly. It is striking how he was pulled out for the Liverpool United game, wasn't it? The dying embers of Mourinho as well. So he's a big game Sky player now. You know, they just draft him in for these marquee fixtures. I mean,
I assume you don't want to overuse him though, because the risk is there. That
well, he has a job.
He has a job.
Yeah,
to the point. I think if you're a Nottingham Forest fan, I don't know. Do you have slightly mixed views on Roy Keane shaping the agenda when Forest? I know they won to beat Middlesbrough at the weekend, but they've been tanking fairly spectacularly over the past month or so.
He's a bloody brilliant pundit. Sorry, no. He's a bloody entertaining pundit.
Yeah.
He's not a brilliant pundit.
What have you learned?
Well, nothing. I've learned that, well, you can insult these Manchester United players in any number of ways, and it's never not funny when it's in Roy Keane's accent.
Yeah. Or have we learned a lot, really? In some respects, we haven't learned much in terms of, say, a tactical insight into a Roy Keane's forensic analysis of what went wrong. But are we actually seeing a lot about how Roy Keane operates in terms of his analysis of football and how he might operate in a dressing room and how his standards are such that they're very clearly defined. I mean, the whole line about the top being top and that's it. You know, he has a view of what a Manchester United player should be and what they should strive to achieve. And I'm not sure if he's going to talk or coax them into it. It's almost an unforgiving, this is what you need to do. And that's always been the fear about Keane as a manager, that maybe he has such a particular one-dimensional view of things that he actually struggles to maybe just relate to people who just can't do that, or players who just don't have the ability to do the things that he could do.
Well, he spoke about the United dressing room that he played in and the amount of leaders that were there, and I think Gary Neville was making the point there were different type of leaders. Like David Beckham was a leader in his own way. He set standards in a different way. He wasn't the guy shouting his mouth off. You know, he wasn't the guy banging his chest before a game, but that for younger players in the dressing room, they could look at him as an example of what they could achieve. Keane doesn't seem to realise that part of that was the genius of Alex Ferguson as a manager, that he was able to mould Gary Neville, mould Paul Scholes, one of the quietest, great players around, to let him flourish in that dressing room. Keane seems to think everyone should just be 21 years of age, arrive in a dressing room, be a leader and be on it every single day.
But didn't Ferguson also sign players based on mentality as much as ability as well? Like a lot of the United players they bought, I know people are kind of putting up the 814 million, I think it is, they've spent since Ferguson left. But they bought a lot of kind of passive individuals. I mean, aside from Zlatan Ibrahimovic, have they signed many players who would be seen as kind of dressing room leaders and experienced players who are likely to give the rest of the team a kick up the backside? Like Antonio Valencia has been captain for a long time. Ashley Young seems to fill in for him.
But do you not turn players into that? I thought it was, and I was surprised I didn't bring it up, was actually you just compare the leadership qualities of this United team to the Manchester City team that played last night. And straight down the middle, you had Vincent Kompany, Fernandinho, David Silva, Sergio Aguero. All very different type of characters. But they're the four guys, 30s, who've lasted at the club because of their consistent quality, because they seemed, like David Silva 8 years ago, you would never have looked at as a leader of men, but now game like that takes control of it. Sergio Aguero seems to feel something for Manchester City, sort of drags the team along, that you can actually create that type of character if you give it time.
Yeah, I don't know. I suppose it's a fair point. I mean, would Silva and Aguero be able to show those leadership qualities if they didn't have the support of Kompany and Fernandinho there? Now I know Kompany hasn't been an ever-present by any stretch of the imagination, and Fernandinho did go off in the game. So I take your point, and you see someone like Bernardo Silva even just has grown in stature over the last period of time. But I think there's obviously got to be a balance there. You know, that you need. I mean, there are certain positions on the pitch where you still need those leadership figures, and so you mentioned that defensive midfielder and a centre half where you have that, whereas you're looking for Manchester United for those characters, and they're not there. So I mean, Marcus Rashford is getting praise for coming out and speaking in a forthright manner afterwards about what it is, but him being a leader alone isn't going to transform a team's fortunes if the squad, and I think that's what I sort of take what you're saying, Will, in the sense that like there has to be a methodical approach to recruitment in terms of, you know, addressing where you need, where there is a weakness, and sometimes like the leader may actually not, maybe one of your weaker players, but what they offer is that. Whereas I think that the Manchester United recruitment policy really hasn't been thorough in any way at all, really, and that's probably it's coming to haunt them now. I don't know who the leadership.
But I was thinking, and look, the chance is gone from, but somebody like Seamus Coleman, who maybe at this stage doesn't have the quality for where Manchester United want to go, but just takes no shit. Like consistently after every poor Everton performance, poor performance, is out giving that type of Marcus Rashford issue of people need to stop talking about the manager.
Yeah.
We need to eventually take some sort of responsibility. That, again, you need to go and buy characters, particularly where United are now. For any young player going into that club, it must be a nightmare. The level of pressure that's going to be on them. With you're a million miles off the pace. You need to be an incredibly strong character to go into that United team this summer and make a positive impression.
Yeah, I agree, and listen, Coleman's time has probably passed really in that respect, and I did a piece in this earlier in the season. But there's no doubt he could have played for a club of that level, and people would sit there, okay, well, did he have that maybe exceptional ability of like the top right backs in the world? And you can debate that. I think there was definitely a time a couple of years ago when he could have gone there, but I think in terms of personality and presence, ironically, Roy Keane is someone who always said that Seamus Coleman always ticked Roy Keane's criteria for a top player. No nonsense, takes no shit, but also cause none either, and sort of a teetotaler, like really. Now, I mean, a lot of these guys are still very good professionals in a different way. I mean, they've still achieved a hell of a lot in their career and they've dedicated a lot to get to that level, but they may not just embody what you maybe want in terms of like that consistent personality, that spirit, that United way, these comments that you hear. Coleman could have done that.
It's strange how, and again, you're judging it online, but the reaction and how positive it was towards Keane last night, and even the final question that Dave Jones asked Keane of, would you consider coming back to Manchester United maybe after Ole Gunnar Solskjaer as manager, or maybe a director of football role with all these insights you've given us? How people can't separate what makes him a brilliant pundit is what makes him a terrible person to have around a dressing room.
Yeah, I mean, that is it, but it just goes to show like the power of your personality and the power of your profile will always open doors, and that's the benefit. And Roy Keane has earned his status because he carried them and led. Like Roy Keane, I still think when you're having a debate about our greatest Irish sports people, he's right up there at the top of the list because of what he did. But obviously, you can't just forget Roy Keane, the manager, when you talk about a suitability for a role. And I do agree with you. I mean, we both, we've all heard sort of tales about the Irish dressing room. I mean, we've heard a WhatsApp audio, but like we also know anecdotally how things played out over a period of time, and even with Aston Villa and with other clubs where he's gone in as a number 2 with Ipswich and Sunderland over a period of time, it's not going to work. There is a theory. There's always been a theory that the higher up you go, maybe if he worked with the very best players, with the very best mentalities, he would find it easier because he would find them more relatable.
You think it's a Zidane style situation where he walks into Real Madrid and he's ready-made stars.
Yeah, like I can see Roy Keane and Ronaldo working great. As a dressing room.
Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is the Manchester United manager, so maybe it's not that ridiculous a question to ask Roy Keane. Could you?
No, it's true. No, like his link and his association probably it doesn't make it as ridiculous as you might think it would be. But I mean, he is still currently doing a job at the moment where they're not exactly soaring, so maybe it's slightly more complicated. Maybe we should go to Norway for a while and win the league there.
What you got for us, Will?
Well, the Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp's been speaking today as well, and he wants his side now to continue the fight with Man City and take the title race down to the wire. Defending champion City 1 point ahead of Liverpool after that win, and 3 games left now in the season. Klopp says he wants his team to finish the campaign with no regrets.
They were always 1 game in hand, so now it's clear we are one point behind City, and we knew that if we win our last 2 games, the next 2 games, then the decision will be made in the last game, on the last match day, and that's pretty special. But for that, we have to win the next 2 games, which is difficult enough.
We must get more of that Jurgen Klopp press conference for the football show later, because Mo Salah, it hasn't been questioned really, went off to New York for the Time magazine People
I
of
saw
the Year
that actually.
award.
A big picture of him with a pizza there, yeah.
And
Emilia Clarke.
He met Emilia Clarke, or as Jurgen Klopp described her, he met Mrs. Targaryen. So it was a very worthwhile trip, it seems.
Yeah.
There's a lot of skip training yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, like, it should be pinned to the Huddersfield dressing room wall.
Yeah.
Picture of him having a pizza.
Here's his preparation.
Instagram, yeah.
Just to let you know, we do still have this amazing prize to give away if you're a rugby fan. A trip to Ireland, Scotland in Yokohama this September at Rugby World Cup 2019. We're going to have 100 finalists who'll join us on May 9th for a special show we're doing here in Dublin. The only way to come along on the night is to win one of our very exclusive green tickets. Here's how you can win. We've got 3 questions for you again tonight. You can only enter once you have all 3 of the answers. And all the questions are related to Japan. Here's question 1. Who's the current emperor of Japan? This has suddenly gone up a notch, hasn't it? Last night it was, what country did Brian O'Driscoll play for? Tonight it's, who's the current emperor of Japan? JP must be in a bad mood.
That's a tough one.
That's the standard you need to reach. Wow.
I think I know who the Prime Minister is, but the Emperor is like a...
Google that is.
Don't Google it. If you can't come up with it yourself, you don't deserve to go. Remember, don't text in until you have all 3 answers. Entrance must be over 18. Remember to drink responsibly. Visit drinkaware.ie. It's all thanks to Heineken, worldwide partner to Rugby World Cup 2019 in Japan. So we've been talking around it. Give us the PFA Premier League Team of the Year.
Yeah, well, it's obviously dominated by Man City and Liverpool. Goalkeeper is Ederson. The defenders Trent Alexander-Arnold of Liverpool, along with Virgil van Dijk. Aymeric Laporte and Andy Robertson complete the back 4. Midfield, Paul Pogba, the only player outside of Liverpool and City. Bernardo Silva, after his excellent second half of the season, especially in midfield, alongside his teammate Fernandinho. Up front, Sergio Aguero for the 2nd season in a row. Raheem Sterling is there, and Sadio Mane also picked for the 2nd time in 3 years.
So no Mo Salah either, no Eden Hazard.
Yeah, it's harsh, you know. I suppose, like, I know you mentioned Hazard, but like, who's he going
Who are you
ahead
leaving
of?
out?
Who's Mane?
No.
Aguero?
Maybe over Aguero.
Aguero had a brilliant spell again around the time. That was when he got those couple of hat-tricks back-to-back against Arsenal and Chelsea.
Sterling, definitely. Sterling's in it.
And it's only the 2nd time Aguero's been in the PFA Team of the Year. Harry Kane's been in it 4 times already, 4 years in a row. Hard to believe Ireland had PFA Team of the Year right back 3 years in a row, from 2000 to 2002. Kelly, then Carr, then Finnan. We've had possibly 6 right backs in the PFA Team of the Year down through the years.
We've harvested that position.
Seamus Coleman won it.
Yeah.
Back in 2012.
Dennis Irwin would have had. Although was he as
Richard Dunn was in the Team of the Year. He might have been in as left back. Richard Dunn got in the Team of the Year as centre back at one stage.
That was
Jay Given, Stephen Carr. Yeah.
Dunn got in.
So Matt Doherty felt that this should have been his rightful role.
Yeah, it's typical. It's the right back role again. If there was a right wing back position, he would have been in it. It's like
Mick McCarthy's like, told you.
It's like his Ireland career here. It's just like they need to redraw the shape of the PFA Team of the Year. Then he'd be in it.
Pogba's inclusion in Team of the Year smacks of a sponsor suggesting candidates and players then not being bothered to think about every position and just going with their suggestions. I don't know about sponsors suggesting candidates, but players not overly thinking this, I think, is something we definitely know is what happens.
Well, I mean,
Kev was the PFA rep, wasn't he, at one stage? And it was a bit of a struggle to get players to even bother filling out the form.
Well, this is the thing. Like, they've obviously got other things to be at.
Listen, picking players for these awards is very difficult. A lot of criteria that are set down.
Yeah.
Sometimes things change. They might have thought about giving it to Matt Doherty, but then giving it to somebody else.
Yeah, I mean,
There was pressure put on this judging panel. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like a scenario, say, where you've picked a player who's played for another country, you know, at the time of the awards.
Such a thing
I mean, the goalposts move sometimes for a judging panel. It can be a difficult thing.
Exactly. Paul Pogba's form then was one thing, now it's another thing. This happens.
You can't transport yourself into the future when you're voting.
No, certainly.
You weren't to know that they would be hammered 3 or 4 times in the previous in the build-up.
So I think we should respect the vote of the players of the Premier League.
Because they're the ones that didn't really think about their vote.
We should respect their vote.
Yeah.
That's
but they
all
didn't think about it, you said. Whereas you're on a judging panel that did think about it very deeply.
Deeply.
Or did you not think about it at all? Is that your defence?
I don't have a defence at this stage. I've just been, I'm a broken man when it comes to it.
Judging panel issues.
Yes. Yeah. I presume we'll be invited back again next year.
No, they rotate it.
Okay.
And I think the people who...
I always get a terrible year. That's part of the problem. Every year I'm on, it's, oh my God, we've lost 8 matches this year.
Well, I was on it the year where there was no young players at all who played for Ireland during the year. That was a slight problem. No one who met the criteria, so the age limit had to be put up. So that was a scandal.
A real scandal, not like this scandal. I think we're done, Will.
Yeah.
Nothing happening today is essentially what we can figure out from that.
Aside from Bundy Aki explaining his social
run us through
media
that
liking
quickly.
of Israel Folau's tweet, Ireland centre Bundy Aki has apologised for accidentally liking a homophobic post by Israel Folau, saying he did so without looking at the content. Folau had his contract terminated by Rugby Australia after claiming that hell awaits for gay people. Aki's released a statement today condemning Folau's comments, says he's unlike the post once he realised the mistake. And Leinster know who's going to be refereeing their Champions Cup final as well. Jerome Garces will be the man in the middle for Leinster against Sarries.
All right, cheers for that, Will. Dan, you'll be back for the football show. John Giles is up next.
Off the Ball on News Talk. That's cinematic. In 67 family-owned expert electrical stores, this is too. Samsung's flagship QLED Q90R TVs deliver the ultimate 4K experience. Genuine cinematic colour made from over